Today, today I kind of want to call out the devs for Conan Exiles and talk about how we need to see changes to PvP, XP, and talk a little bit about the loot in Conan Exiles for console players. I feel the changes I'm going to talk about today we need to see in order for the game to survive on console. We simply don't have the options that PC players have to mod the game, and to be honest, the game gets quite boring after a while. There is not much to do or farm for in ways of gear or weapons once you get certain items in the game. And I think that if they slowly work towards these changes, this could be a long-lasting game that players will come back to, even the ones that have said they'd never play this game again. And to be honest, I can't speak for other platforms, but I feel that the game is dying on PlayStation. I just don't see the number of people on the game that I used to see. It is getting harder and harder to find people to play this game with, and I'm afraid that if something doesn't change, we might not have a game to play at all. I'm hoping that the developers of Conan see this video, but I need your help for that to happen. So please give this video a like and share it if you can. Let's try to get console players the type of game that PC players have, because I absolutely love the idea of this game. It just needs a little more for it to stay alive. So today, I only want to go over PvP and XP in this video, but I feel I need to briefly go over the loot, because you can't talk about the problems with the PvP system without bringing up the loot system. I'll go more in depth on the loot in a later video because there is just too much to talk about when it comes to loot. And aside from the bugs that need to be fixed in the game, I'd like to break down and explain what changes I'd like to see come to Conan Exiles. This is a topic I want to talk about over several videos because the ideas I have and the things I want to go over are just too much to talk about in one video. Now with that being said, let's get into the video. The first thing I want to talk about, of course, is PvP, and the fact that they can even say they have PvP in the game. I don't feel PvP is something that can even be considered associated with Conan Exiles. Do players get to play with other real players? Well, yes. Do they get to PvP in the way that they do with other games? No, not that I've ever seen. I just don't feel that there is any true PvP in this game. The fact that they allow offline raiding pushes players away from the PvP part of the game. I mean, why risk losing what you have in a PvP fight when you can just wait for a player to go offline, message your friends to jump online, and all of you raid the player's base who just went offline? Now, how is that fair to the player who is offline, and where is the PvP in that scenario? If you look at other games like Call of Duty, Fortnite, and The Division, all of the PvP aspects of these games are fast-paced and intense, giving you the feeling of excitement and puts you on the edge of your seat, not knowing if you're going to win the fight. Or on the other side, going into a fight, knowing you're going to win the fight, and seeing how many players you can take down before those other players overwhelm you, and you eventually get taken down yourself. Or you end up fighting until they give up. And it also comes with the excitement of taking someone's loot and the frustration of losing that stuff that you've just farmed for, and the opportunity to fight for what you've worked for, but on a fair level, unlike offline raiding, where you don't have that opportunity to do so. And I'll say it again. Why risk losing your stuff in a PvP battle if you can just steal someone else's things when they jump offline by raiding them when they can't defend what they have? And don't bring up thralls, because we all know they can be killed and you can still take that person's loot, because the thralls will not act in the same manner that a real player will. And simply put, there is no risk for you as the offline raider. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain by raiding someone when they go offline. Flat out, you should never be able to raid a player if they are not online to defend what is theirs. Raiding should only be enabled when a player is online, but I am not completely turned away from it. If a player doesn't log in over a week, then his stuff should be fair game, to make room on the server for other players. If he hasn't been on in a week, then he might not ever be on again. The thing is I have never been on a server and had someone raid me while I was online, or had a player randomly attack me to steal what I had. Imagine a player completing a dungeon and having to fight off another player who has been waiting for someone to complete the dungeon so he can fight them and take their loot that they just farmed for in the dungeon. How awesome would that be? But I don't imagine that that type of thing ever happens. And the small city in the game should be in the center of the map and be a neutral zone where other players and NPCs cannot attack you. This could be a safe place for players to strike up trade, especially those players who can't or don't have the time to put into the game as other players do. But I'm getting off subject. I just wanted to mention this because it could be part of the PvP aspect, in a way, but we can talk about that in another video. So the first thing I think they should change is to take away the ability to raid players when they leave the server. This would force players to engage in the PvP the game implies there is. And I feel this would prevent players from leaving the game and not coming back because they keep getting offline raided. Like this player, for instance. And I don't blame him. You go into the game expecting a PvP experience, and you get raided when you jump offline, which has nothing to do with PvP. This player was raided when he went offline. Everything was taken from him, and his base was destroyed. I run my own server, and I offered to replace all of the stuff that he lost, and I still haven't seen him on my server. And he hasn't messaged me for help. Maybe he thinks the same thing's going to happen. And who wants to farm again and again and get nowhere because players keep raiding you when you jump offline? I mean, who can blame them, especially as a solo player? I don't know. Maybe the devs don't know or understand what PvP stands for. So I'll try to explain it to them in this video, in case one of them happens to see it. PvP is an acronym that means and stands for player versus player, not player versus offline player. That acronym would most likely be PvOP. And in order for us to have true PvP, we need players to actively engage in it. And we simply cannot do that with the system that they have in place. And I think before this can happen, a few other things need to change as well. Because just taking away the ability to offline raid is only part of the problem. Other than removing offline raiding, another problem I see is that we need a reason for players to want to engage in PvP. And with the current loot system, this just isn't possible. Especially when loot, referring to weapons and gear, can be crafted at full damage and full durability. This creates a problem with farming. Weapons and gear should only, on rare occasions, drop at full damage and full durability, even from a crafting station. Should there be a way for us to get them to full stats? Sure, but they shouldn't just be given to us maxed out. This is something we should have to work for. And as far as crafting them, there should be a very small amount of thralls that can craft weapons at full, or at least a percentage chance that these items can be crafted that way. Anyways, we're getting off subject. Still, I hope you understand what I'm getting at. And how likely is it that you're going to run into a player that completed a dungeon that has something you don't already have? And the loot in the open world is laughable. Have you taken the time to open chests all around the map? I have, and there is nothing worth looting in these boxes that you can't make or get just as easily as doing anything else anywhere on the map. Even the hard-to-get-to boxes have nothing worth wasting your time trying to get to. Like this one, for instance. If you can get to this box in an official server, then you should be guaranteed to get something good. And even if you did get something good, how likely is it that you're going to run into someone on the map that would try to take it from you? Probably not very often, because all of the players are hiding in their bases, waiting for other players to go offline so they can offline raid them. Another thing I'd like to see changes to is experience points. I kind of laugh when I see everyone in the community so fixated on the fact that they want to play on servers that are 10 times XP. People, you don't get anything for XP after level 60. And I understand you want to level up fast. I get it. But there's no point. Take your time. Enjoy the game. Oh wait, you can't because of all of the offline raiders. Right, I'm sorry. I almost forgot. Once you reach level 60, what is the point in doing anything other than farming for building materials to craft a base? And then what do you do after that? You know, I have yet to run through all of the dungeons. And I've played this game for quite a while. I have not attempted any of them for 2 reasons. The first being offline raiders. I can't get any of the gear or weapons I need to run the dungeon on an official server due to the offline raiders. Being a solo player on an official PvP server, it's hard to get anywhere with so many offline raiders. The second reason is there's no reason to. With the weapons you can get, like the Predatory Blade in the open world, there's really no reason to farm for any other weapons. And the gear that you can craft is good enough to wear for pretty much any encounter, especially without there being any PvP. And there's really no reason to run through a mission over and over and over again, because you don't get a special weapon that's above all the other weapons in the game that has a small percentage chance to drop in a particular mission. So why run a dungeon over and over and over again if there's nothing to gain? And with the weapons and gear you can craft at the crafting station, crafting at full damage and full durability, there's really no reason to run dungeons. My point is that the game doesn't make you feel there's any reason to complete the dungeons once, let alone multiple times. Sorry, I started going off subject again. But here's what I'm getting at as far as the XP goes. When you engage in a PvP fight and you lose, you should lose a small amount of XP. This will give you a reason to gain XP by completing a dungeon or an open world activity that will make it worth that 10 times XP on a server. Once you've reached a level cap and you continue to gain XP, your XP bar should continue to rise. And once you've completed that level bar, you should get something for it. They could use the God Altars, for instance, for gaining XP and specific loot once your XP bar fills up. And yes, you should only be able to follow one god. I'll go over that later in another video. I would like to see real PvP in this game. I feel it could be fun and a fresh thing that could bring life back to the game. I'd also like to see a PvP arena where we can practice our PvP skills, where we don't risk or lose anything in, and that players from all servers can join, so that we're not stuck fighting the people on the server that we're actually on. So that when we engage in a PvP fight with the people on our server, we're going into a fight that we don't know we're going to win or lose. This just touches base on some of the PvP and XP things that I think we really need in this game. And I feel that if the devs put some time into it, I feel that this could be a long-lasting game similar to Warframe. But we need them to really step up and do some changes that we really need to see. And I would not mind in the slightest for paying a little bit more for DLCs if we could see changes like this in the game. I've played games like Warframe and The Division, and I love the complex things that you have to do in both of these games. And I love the intense feeling of PvP and going into areas where you don't know what's going to happen. PvE content in itself can be exciting, but PvP can be even more exciting because you don't know what's going to happen. I'd also like to see an area in the map, perhaps an island, where players can go to, where they have to fight their way out with the loot that they've just farmed for, where the loot in this area is better than anywhere else. And I want to go back to the city. I'd like to see the city as a place where we could keep things friendly, away from the PvP. This could be an area where players go to trade resources with one another, where players from opposite side of the maps can get what they need without having to worry about getting too close to someone else's base and have to worry about getting killed. And if there are players who are building on resources, this is still a way to get the resources that you need if they have control of them, even if they are overpricing them. This would solve the problem of people building over resources. But then again, isn't that what we're going for here? For you to build in an area, take it over, and exploit it for its resources? I mean, isn't that kind of the idea of the game? This, of course, could be another aspect of the PvP. Whereas there are areas that resources are, and if you can gain control of them and their areas, you can trade or barter with other people. And then for those offline raiders, these areas are open game for offline raiding, and you are unable to create a spawn point on these resource areas. I feel that something like this would fix both sides of the spectrum when it comes to raiding and offline raiding. So the devs would have to come up with specific areas in the map for specific resources so that you can capture them and try to gain control over them. I believe this would be a fun thing to add to the PvP aspect of the game. So you tell me, are these changes something that you'd like to see in the game? Leave me a comment below and let me know. And what are the changes that you'd like to see as well? And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more content. I'm going to try and come out with more videos of changes that I'd like to see in the game, as far as weapons, gear, stats on characters, and other things. So until the next time, be safe and have a good day.